Okay, so that's the way to do it if you're doing analog summing. I'm sorry this has become a bit of a long video. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do it if you're working in the box. So let's go back to Pro Tools. Okay, so this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the audio, including the click and the drums, and I'm going to send them to the 2-bus. So all those audio files are now feeding the 2-bus. That's the 2-bus in. That's just created a loop, which is not good. Now what we're going to do is just find another bus, which I normally call the 2 mix. And so we're still going to do a print technique, not a bounce. And I'm monitoring out my same 31, 32, my reference out. But this time, notice all the audio is feeding the 2-bus. So let's just turn all this back on again. And so all the audio, the guitars, the bass, the guide drums, and the click are now feeding the 2-bus. Okay. Now the reason that's so loud is because I've got my processing on here. So if I was printing a mix as a final mix for the client, then I'd keep this set as I've got it, 2-bus, out the bus there. Now what I can actually do is I can go in here, 23, 24, I can go to my I/O, go to my buses, and I can rename bus 23, 24. I'll call that 2 mix. So now over here I've got all my audio channels are feeding the 2-bus, which this is an aux. Remember, it's an aux track. And then my 2 mix then feeds my audio track, and that's what I use for printing. And then I'm monitoring out my reference out, and you can monitor out whatever your out is, 1, 2, or whatever you've got. So now it's exactly the same. We can do exactly the same thing. We can just we can print. But be very careful here. This actually is going to have latency because I'm going through these plugins here. Let me just show you. So all those plugins there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change this to 2-bus. And basically it's the same principle. We're feeding straight in. Notice we've got 0 latency down here now. So this way the MP3, the file that we create, that we export to the drummer is going to be definitely from 0. Very important, because if I export it with that latency through all that processing on the 2-bus, then the track will be slightly out of time. It won't actually be from 0 because of the latency. It'll be that many samples out. So there it is. We can just print that. So do exactly the same thing. Turn off the drums, put a count at the front, create our track, name it, put the tempo in. So do all the same things, name it, what it is for the drums, the tempo, the key, the resolution, everything. Everything else is exactly the same, and then we just print. We print that way. Instead of printing out through the analog and everything, we're just printing digitally. Everything happens within the computer. It's still in real time though. It's because it's not a bounce. A bounce happens high speed. So that's how to do a print in the box. Now the final and third thing I'm going to show you how to do is I'm going to show you how to do an offline bounce, achieving the same thing. So let's go back to our Pro Tools. Now what we've got all our audio still feeding the 2-bus. What I'm going to do is turn off the drums. And now we're just going to check that, make sure that's right. Just find somewhere to play it. Check the volume, make sure it's not clipping. It's pretty close actually, but if I add the drums it will. So because I'm not going through my analog processing, all my levels are all out of whack and everything. But what I just need to do there is turn the vocal down a fair bit. I still need him to hear the drummer still wants to hear the vocal. He just doesn't want it ripping his head off. So that's roughly set now. If I'm going to use the click, I need to do my automation on the click. So let's just do that. So what I'm actually going to do is delete all this automation that I've got here. And I'm just going to set a new automation up. So it'll just count in for the first 2 bars. Drop that down. So now what'll happen, we've got our 2-bar count, and then the click will cut out. Mix sounds okay. So now we've got to select the area we're going to mix. I can do that just by clicking on this, or I can take the track back to 0 and I can select finish, hold the shift button and click finish. It highlights the whole area. I can check my area up here. It's very important to make sure I'm starting from 11000, and I can check that the whole track's there. There it is. Okay, so now we're going to go File, Bounce to Disk. Now what we do is we select our bounce source. Now in this situation, we're going to select 2-bus. Because remember, everything's feeding our 2-bus now. Now, in this situation, we don't need to import it back into Pro Tools. We can if we want to, but it's not necessary. This is just something to send the drummer. I always print into Pro Tools, so I've got a record of it, but in this case, we can just bounce. So we set our resolution, 2448. We want to create an MP3. In actual fact, I'm just going to bounce straight to an MP3. MP3 interleave 48. And then we name it. So this is going to be title of the song, Feed My Sheep, 4 drums, and then blah, 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 put the tempo in, etc., etc., etc. Now, it's important to click offline here. And, obviously up there, sorry, I should go through that. We're going to put the, for drums, we're going to put the key of D minor, the tempo, 105 BPM, whatever the tempo is, and then 24-bit 48. Just so he's totally clear on what we're doing. And then here we select offline. So now when I do it, I hit bounce. Obviously I also need to select my directory. So I'll put it into bounced files, which is within the session. So all the bounced files automatically, Pro Tools automatically sends it there. And then we hit and then go bounce. It doesn't like the name. That's okay. Let's just go with that. Bang! It's now doing a high-speed bounce. It shows me the speed that it's doing it at. 5 times. So yeah, that's the way of bouncing it. I'm just going to quit out of that because I don't. And of course, then you do the same thing for the drums. So we'd switch off all this other stuff, switch on the drums, and then just bounce out the drums. So that's about it. I hope that all makes sense. I'm sorry if I waffled on a little bit with that, trying to fit 3 different processes into the one. So that's printing or bouncing an MP3 to send to a session musician so that they can record their audio to it and then send you back the audio from the same start point, and then of course you import it into the session and everything should line up. Everything should be perfect. Thanks very much. Hope that was valuable. All the best.